Hello, I am John Cole Morgan from iQuilt Studios here in the UK, and I'm so pleased to bring another wonderful contributor to the Voices in Cloth. I'm going to get this wrong. Oh my God, I've got it. Xandrea. Sorry, that was it. Let me do that again. And I've got another wonderful contributor, another wonderful contributor to the. Oh, I'm going to get this right eventually.
I'm so
This is
sorry.
what
I
I
feel like
mean.
we should bring my mom into this and be like, why did you pick such a difficult name?
The problem is, the minute you've made one mistake, you just assume you're going to make all of them. And I'm
Yep.
so excited to bring another wonderful contributor with us. Xandrea, lovely to have you. How are you?
Thank you so much. I'm doing well. We're enjoying the cooler weather for now, so we can't complain.
Wonderful. So tell people a little bit about who you are, where you come from, and maybe just tell us a bit about your quilting journey.
Right. Well, I'm Xandrea Roos. I reside in Benoni and I have a quilt store here called the Pincushion. And I've been quilting since I was 14. So that's 15 years now, which makes me feel, I've stuttered a little bit when I say that. But yeah, I've been quilting for 15 years. And yeah, I've never really delved into I want to say quilt festival side of things. I want to say I've been a fringe quilter. I've enjoyed the art on the outside, but yeah, it's going to be an interesting step to take a little bit in now.
Because you're coming to festival, aren't you?
Yes, and I'm doing a class. My mom and I both.
Wonderful. What class are you doing?
Yes. I'm gonna get it wrong. I always get it wrong. The Cairo tent makers, how to stitch like an Egyptian. That
They
one.
are amazing. They came here to the UK and they did the class here, and I tell you, it's amazing. The best
Okay, that's
quote I've ever
exciting.
heard from any crafter is that they will say this: a slow stitcher is a hungry stitcher.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
No, it's really, the tent makers of Cairo are incredible and their work is insanely good. You will really enjoy it.
Okay,
Really good
super. So
choice. You've chosen
that's what
well.
we'll be
So
doing.
how long are you coming down for?
We are only going down. I need to get this right now. So it's the Thursday. I think we arrive on the Thursday, classes on Friday, and then we're heading back up on the Sunday again.
Wonderful. You will have an absolute ball. And it's your first quilt festival.
No, so we've attended as shoppers quite a bit. My mom and I tend to make it a thing. So we were at the Cape Town one last year because we're the only people of the family really that live way up this side. All the family live in the Cape, like the smart people they are. Yeah, we made a bit of things. We went to the Cape Town Festival, which was absolutely lovely. And then the time before that. But sure, my mom and I've never really entered anything into the festival. I've never really wanted to. But when we saw the Voices in Cloth post, we thought, this seems small enough that we could put our all into it and not, I don't know how to say this, but just not put, it's not that much pressure. It felt like something we could both do and let our creativity go a little bit without the pressure that sometimes comes with it.
Tell me a little bit about the piece that you submitted.
It's called Mookie and I, and essentially it's a representation of the quilt journey that my mom and I had. So I was 14 when we started classes together. And it was, yeah, I take my hat off to my quilt teacher because I have this thing, I don't finish the first things I start. My very first embroidery piece is still somewhere in a box in this house. And my very first quilt I ever started turned into cushions for someone's 21st. So I always say my first one is like a oops, it's like the first pancake. It's a sacrifice you have to make. And then the second one, I went through a phase, you could say, of I was very much a goth. So everything was, dark and spider webs and pumpkins, these sort of things. So this lovely cool teacher named Wilma Heineke let me do her, I think it's called Flat and Bloom quilt, but it's all in these dramatic dark blacks and purples and oranges with bats instead of butterflies. So that was the very first quilt I did alongside my mom. I can't even remember what my mom did. But yeah, and it's just a representation of that and how we've grown as quilters, where we're both very similar, but because I've got red and a gray black in my quilt. It's the contrast between the two, how we've kind of walked the same path with our quilting journey, but it's still distinctly different.
Why did you actually take part? Was it just because it was easy and achievable and something you wanted to take?
It's going to sound odd as well, but it just stuck between my shoulder blades. I thought, oh, I'm not going to add another thing to my plate. I've got enough things to juggle, and I don't. And my mom's like, oh, should think about it. And then a week will go past, and I'm like, no, now the due date's coming up too quickly. But I am a fantastic procrastinator. I've gotten through my whole life procrastinating. Not something I'm proud of, but it is what it is. I don't fight it anymore. And yeah, the last minute I said to my mom, okay, let's just push through. Let's just try. And my mom made hers, and I made mine, and that was it. It's a funny, a funny way to go about it.
But I think it's wonderful, and extraordinarily, I've had about 3 different families have contributed, different generations. And I
Oh,
didn't
that's
know, like
lovely.
one lady here in the UK, she's a customer of mine. And I said to her, come on, you're South African, do me a quilt. And she submitted it and sent it to me. She says, oh, my aunts have made one as well. And I was like, what?
Oh, I love that. I love
And
it
it's
when it becomes a
a whole
family thing. And I
project.
think yes,
And it's
it's just
brilliant. And
beautiful.
also then we've got a granny, a mom, and kids have done it as well, which I
Oh,
love that, the generational thing on it.
yes,
Very special.
that's special. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, obviously, running a shop, you've got a different outlook on the quilting world than most people do, because you and I look at quilting from a
Hmm.
different way. We look at the fabric, whether it's going to be commercial. We look at the patterns, is it going to be commercial? Are we going to
Yes,
sell it? How do we make a living from it? How do you
yes.
marry that with your own personal quilting journey? And that's a selfish
That
question for myself, by the way.
no, it's such a good question because I almost want to say it goes through seasons, and because it's tricky when you take something that is a passion of yours and turn it into your business, your job, because where do you find pleasure from your job? The minute something feels like work, all of a sudden it's not fun anymore. And I find it, I am still trying to find the balance between, yeah, enjoying quilting for the art and for the hobby that I had, and then still thinking, oh no, but this would be a great business idea, and that should be a class. I should teach that, and this and that, and all the rest of it. And then you sit there some days and you just don't do anything because you're so overwhelmed. And that happens a lot. But it's just finding that balance. And then do you know what actually happens generally? And it's when I always feel like, oh no, okay, this isn't for me. It's time I throw in the towel, because give me a 9 to 5 where I don't have to worry about anyone. And if that fabric works, this lady's going to be happy. But someone will come in and I'll have such a great session with them, whether it's a class or a client that's coming. I'm like, okay, remember, Drea, this is why you do it. And yeah, ultimately, I don't have a very good balance with it. It goes from one extreme to the next. I'll be super invested in the business and pop out all these ideas. And because I teach as well, at the shop. So then it's just saying, oh, but I can do this for the business, and that'll go hand in hand with this class. And then it all goes in there, and then all of a sudden the brakes stop, and I'm like, nope, I'm done. Let the shop just do its thing. I'm going to sit here and crochet for 5 minutes.
It's
But yeah, I
extraordinary you say
don't.
crochet, because for
Mm,
myself, I find that if I'm overwhelmed in my shop, crochet is what I turn to,
yes,
because
it's been
it's
proven. There's a study that I can't tell you the medical term, but it puts your brain into a state very close to meditation, because you're repeating, specifically if it's like a granny square, something with stitches that repeat themselves, your brain just goes into neutral. And yeah, I think in today's day and world, we need neutral.
you definitely do. But it's extraordinary that you've got that switching off button. Now, one thing, I'm
Yeah.
going to give you some unsolicited advice. You haven't asked for it. I'm going to give it anyway.
Yes.
One thing I have found in my calendar, we all stick to our
Mm,
calendars. And when you're married to the
yes.
shop, and it's so important, and it is, and I get it. I was told, close your shop for one morning or one afternoon a week, and you are not
Okay.
allowed to do anything for that shop. You are only allowed to sew. You can sew for the shop, but you are sewing, and it's sewing something for you that you enjoy. And if that turns into a class out down the line, that's fine. But stopping and being in your shop and sewing in your shop while you're there and enjoying the sewing process for 4 hours a week
Mm,
changed the way I do my business. Because,
that is fantastic advice.
but it's so simple. And
But it's a simple thing you don't see.
but on a Monday morning, if you look in the history of the time that you've opened the shop, Monday morning, you may not have a single customer, but you're open.
And I'm not even open. I'm open 5 days a week. So I'm closed on Sundays and Mondays.
So then
So,
on a Tuesday morning, because Sunday and Monday you need to rest, on a Tuesday morning,
mm,
only open Tuesday afternoon. And on Tuesday morning, you're not doing admin, you're not doing stock take, you're not opening the post, you're not unpacking anything. You sit there and you sew for you. Because
that
that
is very interesting.
it's just a simple bit of advice, and I've literally have forced myself. I close my calendar on a Friday morning, and I don't care. You can't make it any other time. Sorry. I'm sewing. Because if you don't pull yourself back to enjoying sewing and remembering why you started
You
the
lose
business,
it.
and
Mm-hmm.
you do, and I found, and there are days where I can't do it because of stuff going on, but when I don't do
Yes,
it, the
you feel
next
it.
week, I really struggle. So just bear that
Oh,
in
it's so
mind. Tuesday
strange.
mornings, because look how many people you have in on a
Mm,
Tuesday morning. And if you've got more people Tuesday
exactly.
morning and less people Tuesday afternoon, close Tuesday afternoon. Get them in the
Yes,
morning and then Tuesday afternoon close. But just consider it
yes.
because, but keep your
That's a
weekend.
very good piece of advice
Just think
because
about
that's the thing. Then you try and when everything becomes, especially if you, I mean, I love my mom and I love our sewing and I love that we have this hobby together. But and I often say, if I come back from work, because we live together, I come back from work and my mom's sewing and she's like, oh, Dre, but look here. And I'm like, I've just spent 8 hours quilting, mom.
it.
Please don't ask me anything. And she doesn't get it. But she doesn't understand it at first, but it gets there. And she's like, okay, I understand. Because why would you want to come home and do work as well? So,
And it
Jonah,
is
that
that
is a
fine line
very good piece of advice.
because it's your passion and it's something you love and it's so deeply invested in who you are. You can't
Mm.
switch it off and you don't want to switch it off. So
No, because
embrace.
you feel sad because again, it started as a passion first, and the way I mean how I got to quilting was quite on the other way of things. When I was younger, for as long as I can remember, all I wanted to become was a nature conservationist. I was down to when I was 18 and I left school, I was going to become a game ranger. I did my A levels because I was homeschooled and I did it through Cambridge. And my mom's like, okay, well, you're done now, you can start. But it is such an expensive profession to get into. So I said to mom, okay, let me start working and then we can go from there. And I started at the time, she had a friend who owned a quilt shop as well. And she's like, well, we can get you part-time in there. And then at least, you can learn some new stuff and you can start saving. Saving never happened. And eventually it just turned. And I said to my mom, well, maybe there's something here for me in this. And that's while I was working for them, I did my South African SAQG accreditation teachers course to be a teacher. And I kind of thought that's where I would stop. I'd be like, I'd teach, I'd work at a quilt store, and that would be that. And then in 2021, I had this fantastic opportunity to open up the quilt store with a business partner. And yeah, and that's how it happened. So it's always been a passion, but like you said, when your passion becomes your job, it's tricky. It's really tricky, and then you feel
But
guilty because you know it's
we're
mm,
not good at actually keeping it as a passion because we make it a
no,
job. And the
yep,
determination to make it a financial success, my darling,
yeah,
forget it. You're never going to make a financial success out of it. You will make more money serving coffee at Mug and Bean because you get an hourly wage. You will make more money doing that. So if you close the shop for 4 hours, you're not going to lose any money, but you will keep
no.
and you will
But
keep your
it's that,
love for it
and
alive.
I feel like small business owners, not so much the big ones, but small business owners, there's a guilt that comes when you take some time. Oh, but and as you said, you've got stuff to do, you've got money to make, and now you're letting people down, or you think people will turn away from you and go somewhere else. And I'm like, well, if that's the case, I often, people are their own people. Just let them be. If you want to go somewhere else, you're more than welcome to. But those 4 hours are not going to make or break anything. I'm actually really going to consider that. It's brilliant.
Even if they do make or break something, it will help you.
Exactly, because how can you pour from an empty cup?
And that is exactly it. And those 4 hours, I know you're going to sit there and want to do class samples. I know you're going to want to do a quilt that you're going to turn into the class. And I get it. I absolutely get it. And what I've started doing now is the classes that I'm teaching in my shop. I went to Missouri
Yes,
Star Quilt Company and I found these amazing patterns. And I only bought quilts that I would have made for myself. So I now get them
yes,
and I bring them in and I buy them from America and I pay full price for them and I literally
hmm,
sell them. And those are my classes, but those are quilts I would have made for myself anyway. So
yes,
merge them together. If you're going to do a shop sample, get some Elizabeth Hartman in that you might really love. Her pieces are
yes.
bloody tiny. Prepare yourself, but they're beautiful. But it's get things in that you
I've
love.
seen them.
They're amazing. They're
They look
amazing.
gorgeous, but then I see that it's not paper piecing, and I'm like, I don't know.
It is. But it's just that little time where you spend and you do top your own cup up. And I think it's really important to do.
Yes, I agree 100%.
So what's
Absolutely.
next in your quilting journey?
Um, I'd say at the moment, most of my quilting journey is focused on classes, essentially. I'd like to, the shop's doing well, um, and I would like to focus on the classes. I don't have many personal, I'm going to say like personal private goals for quilting. They all rely mostly on the growth as a teacher at the moment. I'm just finding my own groove because there's so many teachers, especially in SA. I mean, you don't think they are, but they actually are, and everyone's got their own sound, and it's just about finding your own way through there. And yeah, it's just, I think, mostly focusing on the teaching at the moment and just working through what I'd like to teach. At the moment, it's one thing I always said to myself, I would never do a hexi quilt. I'm not making hexagons. I don't do EPP. Handwork's not for me. And about 2 years ago, I was like, let me just make one. Oh my gosh. It's like I've started a cult
It
in my
is.
shop.
It is. EPP is a cult.
It
Do
is.
not look online for EPP projects. Do not do it to yourself. Do not.
I have a rule. I mean, I've got lots of fingers in different pies with projects, but I have a rule and I've stuck to it. One EPP project because they take forever, which is a good thing. It's not, we don't, everything that not everything has to be instant gratification. And EPP is a slow process, but it is, I mean, within an hour, you'll have a piece of your quilt that's this big, specifically if it's a hexagon. So I thought, well, you know what? If I felt this way, I'm pretty sure there are a couple other ladies and gents that felt this way as well. So I did my EPP 101, or it started with the Hexi 101 workshop. And I had a lady join just to show me how she would hate doing it. She was like, I'm going to prove to you, Drea, that I hate doing this. I was like, all right, come prove to me. She used a jelly roll because the way I do it with squares, and she used a jelly roll because she doesn't want extra cutting. I was like, that's fine. She's on her fourth jelly roll. Her fourth jelly roll of hexagons.
Love it.
Like it's a
My
cult. It is
favorite,
what it is.
my favorite customer that came to me, I did an English paper piecing pin cushion. So you do one
Oh,
flower,
cute.
and they were all with Tula pink fabric. So I cut it out as a
Ooh.
kit. And we did the class, and she came and she did the class, and she was very vocal all the way through how she hated it. And she turned around and she put it together and she said, I'm so glad I've done that. Excuse my language, apologies. This will be the only time I swear, but I'm quoting. I fucking hated that, and I will never do EPP ever again. And she said it was the
And
best
she was
30
honest.
pounds she's ever spent because she never would touch EPP again. And I will
You
never
have
forget
to know. And
laughing.
that's the hilarious.
But
That's
it
the
is,
best. I think if you
if
sometimes
you,
things are hard because you don't know how.
and you
But
don't
sometimes
try
even
it,
when you do know how,
you don't
exactly,
know.
then you don't really know you don't like it. Then you just think you're not going to like it. But that's hilarious. I like that. We have a thing in the quilt shop. It's a safe space. And every month it's called Stitches and Broomsticks. And we always say, come park your broom. And it's just a place where you can let go. And if that means that you drop swear words like bombs as a full stop, essentially, it's a safe space. You can go for it. And whew, ladies do. Yeah. Sometimes swearing and quilting really do go hand in hand. I'm always impressed by the ladies that don't swear the minute they've like stabbed a needle through their finger or got caught on something or have to unpick for the third time.
And the response is, oh dear. And you're like, I
Oh
know you're
dear
not being
gosh.
authentic.
I'm like, I could think of far more colorful words, but oh dear, it's fine.
And you look at them and you've got blood pouring out your fingernail. And you're like, I'm sure you want to say more than
No,
that.
no. It's like, oh dear, can I swear for you?
I love it. I can't wait to come to one of your broomstick days. It'll be wonderful.
I tell you, it's a safe space.
Love it.
What happens at the quilt shop stays at the quilt shop.
Love it. Love it. What do you wish somebody had told you about quilting when you started?
That you can be bad at it. I think there's this stigma because, and it's 50-50, but there's a stigma that because obviously it's like golfing. It's not a cost effective hobby. It is pricey because it's good quality stuff that you're using. And I still remember messing up when I was much, much younger, messing up a quilt block in the one quilt shop lady was like, well, you must remember, little girl, these fabrics are expensive. And I remember it's always stuck in my head. I'm thinking, oof, don't mess it up, money. Oof, don't mess it up, this and that and the rest of it. But I wish someone had said to me, you can be bad at this. You can be dreadful at this. And it's something recently actually that I've only learned is that if you pick up something of a hobby, you don't actually have to be good at it. You can suck at it for the rest of your life. But if you're enjoying it, done. You've already won. There, A+ star. And I think that's what I wish someone had told me, is that, Drea, there's no pressure to get better at this. If you get better at it, great. If you don't, that's fine too. If you're constantly always going to have wonky seams or whatever, that's fine as well. I feel a lot of people don't start hobbies or quilting and handcraft specifically, anything with the needle, because they think it's hard. I'm not going to be any good at it. And I didn't do this when my mom was alive. So why, it's going to be hard for me now. I didn't pay attention back in school or whatever. And you can be bad at something. And I wish someone had said that to me. But you can be bad at this, and that's okay.
Well, it's a testament to how strong a character you are that you didn't take that woman's advice anymore, and for what was said, because I have seen, and I call these people the quilt police, rightly or wrongly, I have seen quilt police destroy quilters and they've never come back.
Yes.
And I think it's very important that for the sake of 50 Rand or 100 Rands worth of fabric, yes, it's a lot of money. I'm not minimizing the fabric, but I do not believe there is a single quilter out there whose first quilt was award-winning. And if there was, well done you. I'm not. My first quilt was
the same
disaster.
It's the same to me. Exactly. To me, it's the same. If your first quilt was award-winning, or it looks a little bit like a dog's breakfast, sorry to the person that's award-winning. It's the same level to me, because you both took a step and you tried something that you'd never done before. And to me, you've already won.
And on top of that award-winning quilt is their first quilt. The next quilt was even more award-winning, and congratulations, that's your path. But for me, my first quilt was diabolical. My husband turned to me and said, darling, should we get you some classes before you waste any more fabric? And I was like, well, you
won't waste any more.
I was like, well, you'll be buried in this, and it might happen.
Exactly.
You think.
Wrapped up like a mummy. Carry on talking. I won't hear you if I muffle it.
He wasn't wrong, though, let's be fair. But my next quilt was better, and the one after that was better, and then the next one was awful, and then the one after that was lovely. So I think
it's not to say it's an up and down journey. Yes. And I think we often put so much pressure on ourselves, and again, money. Life's a bit hectic at the moment. You want something you want to be good at something. You want that self-appraisal. You want other people to appraise you as well. We're human. It's a natural thing. But sorry, we digressed a bit. But if someone had just told me, relax, Trev, you can suck at this. It's okay.
But the interesting thing is, a few years later or a few months later, or depending how much time you invest in it, you won't suck anymore.
No, carry on. Be afraid. Don't be afraid to be bad at something for the first time. Because once you're bad at it, it's a foundation, and off you go.
And if you look at how you learn to drive, every single one of us was dreadful as a driver when we started.
Yep. No, my mom will attest to that.
But after 10 lessons, you got better. And the cost of those 10 lessons is not the cost of your fabric. It's a lot more.
Exactly.
And it's, for me, the mindfulness that you have and the joy that you have from making with your hands is more important than the cost of wasted fabric, if you want to call it that.
Yes. I agree.
Brilliant.
I agree.
Drea, I am so glad you were able to do this. Thank you so, so much.
It's such a pleasure. Thank you for putting up. I think I went off in a bunch of different directions, but that's okay.
I love it because it's so diverse, just like you are. And think about making more quilts for yourself in the studio, but do it in your shop, not at home.
Yes, because different space.
You created something that you love. You created an area that you genuinely love, and other people love, and they love being there. And you have to do that stitching in that space.
I am absolutely going to take you up on that. I'm going to incorporate, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Pleasure. And if you like a few people, really close people that you feel comfortable sewing with, bring them in with it. But don't make it a sewing circle. Don't make it a group. It's your time. Exactly. It's where you're not pulling in people to ask for help for, oh, but Drea, can you just quickly assist here? It's you sew you, I sew me. And if they do our own thing. If they do, I can tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Yes. See you then. Exactly. I'm off the clock. Thank you. Yes. Something comes, a delivery comes, somebody else can deal with it. It's not a me problem. No, sorry, close. Yes. It's hard. Agreed. Yes, it's going to be tricky. The front of my store is all glass. I'm thinking if there's like a lady knocking on the door, I'm just going to be like, I'm not here. It's an illusion. You literally go and FTP yourself a sign. I would love to help you, but I need to sew for me now. Love you lots. See you tomorrow. I like that. I'm definitely going to do this.
somehow I'm going to work it in and I'm going to do it.
And the thing is as well, the minute you put boundaries up for other people, they won't interrupt you because they understand.
Yes. And if they don't, well, then they're not supposed to be there anyway.
You're closed.
Agreed. Exactly. Exactly.
Thank you so much for joining us, Drea. You've been an absolute pleasure. Thank you. And thank you for joining us on this installment of the Voices in Cloth series.
Thanks so much, John. I'm Xandrea Roos. I live in Benoni, Gauteng. My project is Mookie and I, and it's a story in stitches about the quilting journey of my mom and I I started when I was 14. And it's about how we both started as beginner quilters and found our own voice in quilting, essentially, but how we walk parallel in the journey, but we're still very much our own in our own quilting journeys.